former NFL quarterback, younger brother of Seahawks legendary quarterback Matt Hasselbeck, has come out and compared Shedeur Sanders to Andy Dalton, which I think is an interesting comparison. I'll give my NFL comparison to Shedeur Sanders after, but take a listen to Tim Hasselbeck's take.
I think I agree with everything Sam said in terms of the strengths of Shedeur Sanders. He is smart. He knows how to play the position. I think where it gets really tricky is like you're talking about rarefied air when you're talking about drafting a guy at the top of the draft. And look, he just is not as physically talented as you would like to see. I mean, it sounds crazy considering he's Deion Sanders' son, but like that's just the case. And so, look, my comp on Shedeur Sanders has kind of been in that like Andy Dalton range. People have compared him to Kirk Cousins. Look, those are compliments. Both of those guys have thrown for over 250 touchdowns through their NFL career. Both of those guys have led teams to the playoffs. But when you're talking about the top half of round one, look, again, you're looking for elite traits, and he just doesn't have those. Now, look, you're going to have to beat the market at quarterback, so you're going to have to draft a rookie quarterback at some point because of what's happened with the Deshaun Watson deal.
Interesting take there, Jeff. And before you go, I got to say this. Some things he said there that I agree with. Andy Dalton, people forget and people will freak out about that comparison. Andy Dalton has had a lot of success in the NFL. A lot of success. Won playoff games. He played with Tank Johnson, who's been on this show, and with the Bengals about 10 years ago. Very successful team with him and A.J. Green and others on that Bengals team. Now, here's where I disagree with Tim Hasselbeck. He talks about how Shedeur doesn't have any physical characteristics that stand out. Very, very true. Absolutely. But is that really what we're going to sit here and argue about when it comes to the top of the top? You remember, Jeff, when Anthony Richardson was drafted at pick 4, right? Freakazoid. We know he had every physical trait you want, could jump high, run fast, and everything. But, Jeff, he had a 54.7% completion percentage at the University of Florida. So that's kind of my pushback on that take from Hasselbeck. Shedeur Sanders obviously holds the all-time record for completion percentage in college football. So that's kind of my pushback on that. But, Jeff, let me ask you, what is your take on Tim Hasselbeck saying Shedeur Sanders is in that Andy Dalton range?
Well, I think that's a really interesting video because I think he makes a really good point on, I think it's real simple to understand. When you take a quarterback in the first 3 picks, they better be a bona fide superstar starter type of guy, right? A guy who can come in. That said, I don't think he's the only one saying it too. Like, even if you go on like NFL.com, like the grade is like around 6.5, which is potential to be a starter.
Mm-hmm.
So no offense, but if I'm taking a guy in the top 3, he better be a bona fide, I'm not going to say all pro, but he better be damn good.
No, I agree.
Look, yeah, I think the thing is about people like Tim Hasselbeck, Merrill Hodge, all these different people, they're either right or wrong. Okay. They're going to throw out their opinions. Hopefully most work out. We've all been right and wrong on this. I think all of us, if you have the ability with college football in the NFL, you have a pretty good talent ability to understand whether someone will be good or not. I didn't think Anthony Richardson would be good, and he hasn't been. When I look at Shedeur Sanders, I would be more inclined to believe he will be solid as opposed to not good. I don't think it's even a bad comparison. We hear Andy Dalton now, and he's a backup or kind of a hole, kind of fills a hole until you get someone available. But he was a really good player at one point. Kirk Cousins, really good player at one point, still arguably could be. So I don't think it's a slight per se. I think you'd hope that he's better than those guys, but I think there are valuable things about him I like a lot. Obviously, his ability downfield. He keeps his eyes downfield, which is what you want. He's got good size. He's an electric kid. We know that. He's older too. I mean, he's not, real young. He was a senior. He doesn't have an amazing size. He's only 6'1"-ish, 6'1.5". But again, is it the greatest class? No. But I don't think the comparison's as bad as we think. I think he's basically saying he could be pretty damn solid. It wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't great. He didn't come out and say he's going to be the next Michael Vick,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a safe comparison, really.
I agree with you. And I think you made a great point there. I think ultimately Tim is highlighting that he's not a freakazoid where this physical intangibles stick out to you, right? he's also Deion Sanders' kid. So that holds some weight that I don't think people in the Colorado Buffaloes media, so to speak, are going to acknowledge as much as they should. He is going to get that a little bit of bump or slight, whether he falls or not. But I don't have too much of a problem with the comparison. I just think that he's saying that if Shedeur is drafted at 3, he's gonna have he's not gonna live up to the 3rd overall. Like if Andy Dalton was picked 3, you would consider him a bust for the career.
And the sad reality is he's always going to live in the shadow of his father. If his name was Shedeur Smith, he wouldn't. It's almost like LeBron James Jr., right? He's always going to live. Now, that's a bad comparison because this guy's a significantly better prospect than LeBron Jr. But, yeah, I would be more inclined to think he'll have success. And nowadays in the NFL, you don't need to be elite to be a top 10 quarterback nowadays. I mean, there's not a lot of elite, great quarterbacks, but I would be more inclined to believe he'll have major success than major failure.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're asking me to evaluate the quarterback draft, and I'm not a quarterback evaluator by any means, that's why I have Sean King and several other former quarterbacks on the show. But Shedeur is my guy. If I'm Tennessee, you either go him or Travis Hunter. Personally, I think Tennessee is going to make an interesting decision. I don't know if it's going to be Cam Ward. Everyone thinks it's going to be Cam Ward. Tennessee is known for screwing shit up when they have something good. So that's why I'm like, I would hold these.
I don't think these picks, the first 2, are difficult at all. Mm-hmm. The Tennessee Titans, I thought at times when we were doing the show last year with JB, there were times where him and I used to say, outside of quarterback, this team's not bad. They have a decent defense. They have players. They just were constantly turning out Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. Yeah. It's real simple. You either take Cameron Ward or Shedeur Sanders, and whoever doesn't take that player, the next team, the Cleveland Browns, you just take that player. So if they take Cam Ward, you take Shedeur. If they take Shedeur, you take Cam Ward. To me, it's real simple.
Man, I got to ask you about that in a second because I don't think the Browns are going to go quarterback. I think they're going to shock the world and start picking, and it's going to be a shit show just because of the Deshaun Watson deal. But, Jeff, let me ask you, Tim Hasselbeck said Shedeur Sanders' NFL comparison was Andy Dalton. I see it kind of, but I've had an NFL comparison for Shedeur Sanders for a while. I've broken this down for the last 2 years. I believe Shedeur Sanders' NFL comparison, he's a smaller Geno Smith, in my opinion. Longer, not the most athletic person, doesn't have the arm that Geno Smith has because Geno has arguably the top 10 arm in the NFL, in my opinion. But I do see the similar traits from Shedeur Sanders and Geno Smith. That's my NFL comparison for Shedeur. Now, Jeff, let me ask you, if you have an NFL comparison at quarterback for Shedeur, who would that be and why?
I think Geno's a great one. Maybe like Baker Mayfield, possibly. I've heard that. I think the Geno one's really good. And I think if he can be a better Geno Smith, I think you'd be fine with that. Yeah. He's again always going to live in the shadow of his father. Will he be as great as him? That's not fair. He's his own man. And as someone who is the son of a king, I know how that is. It's hard to live in the shadow of your father. It's hard. I think Geno's a really good one. I've heard that one before. I think that's a really good one for him.
Absolutely. And well said.